A fresh batch of new arrivals just hit Dollar Tree shelves this week, and based on how quickly recent restocks have been clearing out, at least some of these won't survive past the weekend. Store staff tracking this week's shipment flagged 9 specific items already moving fast, plus 8 others that made it onto shelves but are genuinely worth skipping, according to early customer feedback and returns. We're covering all 17 today, in the order they were flagged, starting with the 9 worth grabbing before they're gone, then closing out with the 8 worth avoiding entirely. For each one, you'll get exactly what it is, why it's moving the way it's moving, and what it typically costs elsewhere for comparison. If you've got a Dollar Tree run planned this week, this is the list to check first. None of these 9 are marked with a special tag or a clearance sticker. They're sitting on completely ordinary shelves at the regular price, which is exactly why they're easy to miss if you're not specifically looking for them among everything else on the shelf. Let's start with the 9 worth grabbing. Number 1. Silicone drink coasters, set of 4. These grip a table surface without sliding and clean up with a quick wipe, unlike absorbent fabric coasters that stain over time. Comparable silicone coaster sets at home goods stores run $7 to $10. They also stack neatly in a drawer without taking up much space, and the flexible material means they won't crack or chip the way a ceramic coaster can if dropped. Staff say sets like this tend to disappear fast once shoppers realize how much sturdier they feel compared to typical dollar store coasters. Bottom line, 4 sturdy, flexible coasters for $1.25 undercuts even the cheapest comparable set elsewhere by a wide margin, making this one of the easier grabs on this week's list. The slightly raised edge also helps catch condensation before it reaches the table surface underneath. Some shoppers have reportedly bought 2 sets at once, one for everyday use and one kept aside as a spare or a small gift. The set includes a small holder to keep all 4 together, avoiding the usual problem of coasters scattering across drawers or getting lost between cushions. Staff mentioned that similar coaster sets from past shipments have consistently sold through within the first several days once shoppers spot the flexible, durable material compared to typical thin plastic versions found elsewhere in the store. For anyone hosting guests or simply protecting furniture at home, this is exactly the kind of small purchase that ends up used almost daily without a second thought once it's in the house. They're also heat-resistant enough to handle a warm mug without warping, unlike some thinner silicone products that soften under heat. A few shoppers reportedly grabbed extras specifically to keep in a car or a break room, beyond just home use. Number 2. Compact Travel Sewing Kit. A small zippered case with thread, needles, and tiny scissors, size for a purse, glove box, or travel bag. Similar travel sewing kits at retail stores run $6 to $9. Everything stays organized inside a small elastic loop system, so pieces don't rattle loose or get lost the way a looser kit sometimes allows. It's become a popular grab for anyone packing for a trip or keeping an emergency repair kit in a desk drawer. Bottom line, having a small repair kit on hand for a popped button or a loose hem costs almost nothing here compared to scrambling to buy one while traveling. The scissors, though small, are sharp enough to actually cut out thread cleanly rather than fraying it. A few regulars have picked up several at once to keep one in a car, one in a desk, and one in a travel bag. Several different thread colors are included, covering most common repair situations, without needing to search for a matching shade separately. According to staff, small travel-sized kits like this one tend to move quickly right before a holiday weekend or a known travel season, since shoppers often grab one at the last minute before a trip. Even for someone who rarely sews, having a basic repair kit tucked away in a bag or drawer for the one time it's genuinely needed makes this a worthwhile, low-cost addition. The zippered case itself feels sturdier than expected, holding up well to being tossed in and out of a bag repeatedly. Coaches and teachers packing an emergency kit for kids' activities have mentioned this being a useful addition to their bag. Number 3. Reusable silicone baking cups, 6-pack. These replace paper liners for muffins or cupcakes and wash clean instead of getting thrown away after one use. Comparable silicone baking cup sets run $8 to $12. They pop out of a muffin tin cleanly without needing a liner at all, and they wipe clean or go straight into the dishwasher afterward. Bakers who go through paper liners quickly have become steady repeat buyers of exactly this item. Bottom line, 6 reusable cups replacing box after box of paper liners adds up in savings fast for anyone who bakes even semi-regularly. They also work well for portioning snacks or small side dishes beyond just baking. Several bakers have mentioned buying 2 sets to have a full dozen on hand for a larger batch at once. The silicone stays flexible even after repeated oven use, unlike some versions that stiffen and crack after a handful of bakes. Staff noted that reusable baking items in general have been trending upward in popularity this year, as more shoppers look to cut down on the ongoing cost of disposable paper liners and foil cups. Beyond the cost savings, avoiding a trip to buy paper liners specifically whenever a baking craving hits is a small but real convenience worth factoring into the purchase. The bright color options also make it easy to tell which batch is which if baking multiple flavors at once. A few home bakers have mentioned pairing this with the silicone baking mat from a previous list for a fully reusable setup. Number 4. Adjustable book stand. Props a cookbook, textbook, or tablet at a comfortable reading angle, folding flat for storage when not in use. Similar stands at office or kitchen retailers run $10 to $14. The base is weighted enough to stay steady even with a heavier cookbook propped open to a specific page. It's become a favorite for anyone cooking from a recipe without wanting to hold a phone or a book the whole time. Bottom line, freeing up a hand during cooking or reading is a small quality of life upgrade that's easy to justify at this price. Several height and angle settings make it adaptable for different book sizes and seating positions. A few shoppers have mentioned using it to prop up a tablet for recipe videos while cooking, beyond just physical books. It folds down flat enough to slide into a drawer or a bag, making it easy to bring along when reading somewhere other than home. Staff mentioned that items solving a specific everyday annoyance, like holding a book or recipe open, tend to move fast once a shopper realizes exactly what problem it solves for them personally. Whether it's a recipe, a textbook, or sheet music, having both hands free while reading or working ends up being more useful across daily life than it might initially seem. The material feels sturdy rather than flimsy, holding its angle consistently rather than slowly drooping under a book's weight. Music teachers and hobbyist musicians have mentioned finding this useful for propping up sheet music during practice. Number 5. Bamboo Bathroom Storage Caddy. A small organizer for toothbrushes, razors, and small toiletries, styled with a natural wood finish rather than plain plastic. Comparable caddies at bath retailers run $12 to $18. The compartments are sized well for everyday toiletries without anything toppling over when the caddy is moved. Shoppers doing a small bathroom refresh have been picking these up specifically for the natural wood look at a fraction of the usual price. Bottom line, a natural wood look for $1.25 is hard to match anywhere else, especially compared to similar caddies marked up several times over at bath retailers. The finish resists water spots better than expected for an untreated wood look. A few shoppers have picked up 2, one for a main bathroom and a smaller matching one for a guest bath. The open-top design makes it easy to grab items quickly without digging through a closed drawer or cabinet. Staff noted that natural material home items like this one have been increasingly popular this year, as shoppers look for a nicer aesthetic without paying boutique home decor prices for it. A cluttered bathroom counter is a small daily annoyance that this caddy solves quickly, and the natural finish means it doesn't clash with most existing bathroom decor styles. It's also lightweight enough to move easily for cleaning underneath, unlike some heavier organizer options. A few shoppers mentioned using a second one in a kitchen for organizing small utensils instead of just bathroom items. Number 6. Reusable ice packs, flexible gel type. These stay flexible even fully frozen, wrapping around an injury or a lunch bag more comfortably than a rigid pack. Similar gel ice packs at pharmacies run $6 to $9. They refreeze quickly between uses and haven't split or leaked after repeated freezer cycles in testing. Parents packing school lunches have become consistent repeat buyers of this exact item this week. Bottom line, a reusable option that actually molds comfortably beats a rigid pack that never quite fits where it's needed. They fit easily into a standard lunch bag pocket without taking up too much space. Parents in particular have mentioned buying several at once to have a rotation ready for daily lunch packing. The flexible shape also makes it more comfortable to apply directly to a sore muscle or joint compared to a rigid alternative. Staff mentioned that back-to-school season specifically drives a noticeable spike in demand for lunch-related items like this one, as parents restock supplies for the new school year. Beyond lunch bags, this also works well for a minor sports injury or a hot day outdoors, adding some flexibility beyond its original intended use. The exterior material resists condensation buildup better than some cheaper gel packs that leave a wet ring on whatever they're placed against. A few shoppers mentioned keeping one in a car specifically for hot summer drives, beyond the usual lunch bag use. Number 7. Foldable Travel Umbrella Compact. Small enough to fit in a bag without adding much weight, and opened easily in testing without sticking. Comparable compact umbrellas at retail stores run $12 to $18. The canopy held up through a light wind test without inverting, which isn't always guaranteed at this size and price. Commuters caught off guard by sudden rain have been grabbing these specifically to keep a spare in a bag or car. Bottom line, never getting caught without an umbrella again is worth far more than the tiny price of keeping a spare in a bag. A simple push-button mechanism makes it quick to open one-handed in a sudden downpour. A few commuters have mentioned keeping one permanently in a car and a second in a work bag as backup. The compact folded size fits easily into a side pocket of most bags without adding much bulk. Staff noted that weather-dependent items like this one can clear out within a single day once local forecasts predict rain, making timing somewhat unpredictable but demand very real when it hits. Getting caught in an unexpected downpour without one is a minor but genuinely annoying experience that this small, inexpensive purchase easily prevents. The frame felt sturdier than expected during testing, resisting bending even when pushed against moderate wind. A few shoppers mentioned buying multiples specifically to leave one in every bag and car they own. Number 8. Silicone pot holder with hanging loop. Heat-resistant and flexible enough to grip a hot handle securely, with a loop for hanging near the stove. Similar silicone pot holders run $7 to $10. It grips a hot pan handle securely without slipping, even with slightly damp hands. Home cooks replacing a worn fabric pot holder have been steady buyers of this exact item since it landed on shelves. Bottom line, reliable heat protection that also hangs neatly by the stove beats a worn fabric pot holder shoved in a drawer. The textured surface adds extra grip compared to a completely smooth silicone finish. A few home cooks have picked up two, keeping one by the oven and a second near the stovetop. It's thin enough to fold flat for storage in a drawer, unlike a bulkier padded fabric mitt. Staff mentioned that kitchen basics like this one are consistent sellers year-round, without much seasonal fluctuation, simply because most households eventually need to replace a worn-out version. For anyone who cooks regularly, having a reliable pot holder within arm's reach rather than buried in a drawer saves a small but real amount of daily hassle. It cleans easily with just soap and water without absorbing food odors the way a fabric pot holder can over time. A few home cooks mentioned buying a couple extra specifically as small, practical housewarming gifts. Number 9. Cotton dish towels with hanging loop, set of 2. Absorbent, quick drying, and the loop makes them easy to hang from an oven handle instead of bunching on a counter. Comparable towel sets run $6 to $9. The stitching around the loop has held up without fraying even after repeated daily use and washing. Households replacing a worn-out kitchen towel set have been picking up multiples of this exact item this week. Bottom line, 2 absorbent towels with a hanging loop for $1.25 easily beats the cost of a single towel at most retailers. They're soft enough for daily dish drying without feeling scratchies against glassware. Several households have mentioned buying multiple sets to always have a fresh towel in rotation. The 2 towels come in slightly different patterns, making it easy to tell them apart for different kitchen tasks. Staff noted that towel sets with a hanging loop specifically tend to outsell ones without, since the small convenience of not needing a separate towel bar or hook matters more than people expect. A fresh, absorbent towel within reach of the sink is one of those small daily conveniences that's easy to overlook until it's missing. They dry relatively quickly between uses, which helps prevent the slightly musty smell that can develop with slower drying towels. A few shoppers mentioned buying several sets at once, simply to always have a spare in the wash rotation. Now the 8 new arrivals worth skipping this week, according to staff fielding early complaints and returns. Avoid number 1. Plastic phone charging stand. The base feels light and tips easily if the cord is pulled at an angle, risking a dropped phone. Staff say this is already generating more returns than most new arrivals this week, with several customers reporting a dropped and cracked phone screen after the stand tipped over. A slightly pricier stand with a weighted base elsewhere is worth the difference for anything holding a phone off the ground. Staff have started proactively warning customers about this specific item at checkout after the volume of complaints. In just the first few days it's been on shelves. A cracked screen from a fall costs vastly more than the few dollars saved buying a sturdier stand elsewhere, which makes this an easy one to skip regardless of the price. If a phone stand is genuinely needed, spending slightly more elsewhere in the store or at another retailer is worth the added stability. It's a disappointing miss, given how useful a well-made version of this exact product could genuinely be at this price point. Avoid number 2. Bulk disposable earplugs. Several reviewers reported these losing shape and effectiveness within a single use, unlike a reusable option. For anyone relying on these for sleep or work, losing effectiveness partway through a single use defeats the entire purpose of buying them in the first place. A slightly pricier, more durable reusable pair ends up costing less over a month than replacing these constantly. Staff mentioned that this exact batch seems to have a noticeably lower foam density than previous shipments of similar earplugs sold in past months. For anyone relying on hearing protection at a job site or for sleep, effectiveness matters more than price, making this a category worth spending slightly more to get right. Even a modest step up in quality from a different brand tends to hold shape and effectiveness noticeably longer per use. It's a shame, since a reliable version of this item would otherwise be a genuinely useful bulk purchase. Avoid number 3. Cheap plastic clothespins, bulk bag. The spring mechanism on several failed within days, popping open and dropping whatever they were holding. A spring that fails mid-use isn't just annoying, it can mean laundry ending up back on the ground on a windy day. A sturdier wooden or metal clip elsewhere holds up far longer under regular outdoor use. Staff noted that the plastic used in this batch feels more brittle than usual, possibly explaining the higher than normal rate of spring failures being reported. A bag of clips that fail unpredictably ends up being more frustrating than helpful. It's especially on laundry day when reliability actually matters. Testing a small handful before committing to the whole bag might reveal the issue before it becomes a laundry day problem. A sturdier version at a similar price point would make this an easy recommendation instead of a skip. Avoid number 4. Adhesive-backed hooks, heavy-duty label. Despite the heavy-duty label, several fell under moderate weight, well below what the packaging claimed. Staff specifically flagged the mismatch between the printed weight rating and what these actually held during testing as a real concern. For anything actually heavy, a mounted hook with real hardware is worth the extra effort and cost. Staff specifically recommend against using these for anything that would cause damage or injury if it fell, given the gap between the advertised and actual weight capacity. Trusting a mismatched weight rating with anything valuable or breakable is a risk simply not worth taking for the small savings involved. For light items like a small towel or a keychain, they may still function fine, just not for anything the label technically claims. The mismatch between labeling and actual performance is really the core issue here, more than the product concept itself. Avoid number 5. Foam pool noodle, standard size. The foam density felt noticeably lower than expected, breaking down faster than a typical pool noodle after regular use. Breaking down faster than expected midsummer means buying a replacement sooner than a slightly pricier, denser noodle would require. A denser foam option elsewhere holds up through an entire summer, rather than needing early replacement. Staff mentioned this particular batch seems to be a different foam formulation than prior seasons, which may explain the quicker breakdown under normal pool use. Replacing a pool noodle midsummer because of premature breakdown ends up costing more in the long run than buying a sturdier one from the start. For light, occasional pool use it may still be serviceable, but daily summer use will likely wear it out faster than expected. A denser foam formulation would likely fix the issue entirely without needing much of a price increase. Avoid number 6. Plastic sunglasses, kid size. The lenses showed visible distortion when held up to light, raising real concern about actual UV protection despite the label. Given that these are meant for a child's developing eyes, uncertain UV protection is a bigger concern here than it would be for a novelty adult pair. A pair with verified UV protection, even at a slightly higher price, is worth it for actual eye safety. Staff suggested checking any sunglasses purchased for a child against a proper UV rating label before relying on them for actual sun protection outdoors. When it comes to a child's eye protection specifically, this is one category where cutting corners on price isn't worth the uncertainty involved. As a costume accessory or for indoor pretend play, they're harmless, just not reliable for genuine outdoor sun exposure. A version with verified, labeled UV protection would be worth revisiting if it shows up in a future shipment. Avoid number 7. Disposable razors, single blade. The single blade dulled almost immediately, leading to more nicks and irritation than a multi-blade option would cause. Staff mentioned fielding more complaints about irritation from this exact item than almost anything else in the personal care aisle this week. A multi-blade option, even slightly pricier, causes noticeably less irritation over repeated use. Staff mentioned that this specific single-blade design has generated more complaints this month than any other item in the entire personal care section. Repeated irritation from a dulling blade ends up costing more in comfort and skin health than the small price difference of a better option. For an emergency backup tucked in a bag, they may be fine occasionally, just not recommended for regular daily use. A slightly upgraded blade design would likely resolve most of the complaints being reported this week. Avoid number 8. Cheap USB wall charger cube. Several reports of these running noticeably hot during charging, a concerning sign for anything plugged into a wall outlet. A charger running hot during normal use is a legitimate safety concern, not just a minor quality complaint. A properly rated charger from a reliable brand is worth the small price difference for something plugged directly into household power. Staff strongly recommend avoiding leaving this particular charger plugged in and unattended overnight, given the heat buildup reported during testing and by other customers. A charger that runs hot is a fire safety concern, not just a minor inconvenience, making this one worth skipping regardless of price. If used at all, keeping it monitored rather than left plugged in unattended reduces some of the risk, though a better charger remains the safer choice. A charger with proper internal safety components would make this a reasonable buy instead of a clear skip. 9 worth grabbing this week, and 8 worth skipping, regardless of how tempting the price looks sitting next to them. None of the 9 require special timing beyond getting to a store soon, and none of the 8 are worth the risk or the frustration once you're already home. If this list saves you a bad purchase or points you towards something genuinely useful this week, it's done its job. And passing it along to someone else planning a Dollar Tree run this week costs nothing but a share. New shipments roll through fast, so check back again in a week or two, since this exact list will almost certainly look different by the time the next batch of arrivals hits the shelf, with a fresh set of finds worth grabbing and, likely, a fresh set worth skipping right alongside them.